That resonates for me, Bryce.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was holding, that there is certainly a beliefs, philosophies, and principles level that potentially associated with both.
I was holding a notion of purposeful travel. If we're holding kind of levels of will, what does it look like to elevate travel? And I really love that, elevate travel from being in an I and ego level of what am I up to and what do I want to get out of this, to holding it within a purposeful mindset, and perhaps then exploring beliefs, philosophies, and principles about, how that might concretize, something like that.
Well, that pulls Debbie in too, because Debbie specifically works on regenerative travel and stuff. So I know Debbie's done a ton of thinking. So that's where some of the connections are happening. Yeah, I love the idea. Like and this ties in with some conversations that Debbie and I have had. I was like, is travel even the right word, right? Like, because it's like if I'm not looking to be extractive, and I'm not looking to have, go get a souvenir and bring it home and extract from the place. So that was kind of the wake up exercise. It's like, thinking of a time when you've gone to a place, and I'm not trying to be holier than thou or judge anyone who's gone on just travel. So, I think we've all done just travel, right? Or just like gone a place and maybe not been super awake, so to speak, in how we've done it. And that the difference between that and when we've actually gone a place and like really had an experience of the place and felt like we served the something there, and it served us, and just juxtaposing those two different things. So then questioning kind of like, okay, so what does it look like to develop along with a place that's new to us? That just kind of comes to mind. And I'm going to mute because it seems like the background music here is just unfortunately really loud.
It's not coming through. We don't hear it.
Okay, good. Okay. Thank you, Zoom.
Or at least I don't hear it. Yeah, what the scope of consciousness obviously is coming up. Being purposeful was already mentioned, right? You're familiar with that, Max? I think everybody in
That's
the
what's
crowd is
been
familiar with it.
inspiring this inquiry. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
just
yeah.
finished regenerating our thinking.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think what you're alluding, those levels of energies, I think is what you're alluding to, Karen, as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, what are the nature of the energies that you're bringing to the visitation or the hmm. I don't know why this felt like it was resonating with me. It was just the notion of hey Janet,
Hi.
just the notion of being in inquiry in terms of the relationship you're seeking with the places you visit. Um, I'm just going to share a quick story since I have some recent experience. So we spent several days visiting places in Cornwall and many magical, amazing places, and it was all wonderful. We spent better part of a day with Max and some friends and quite lovely, precocious 5-year-old who were all local to the area. And we visited a place like Holywell, which is on the Cornwall coast. Amazing, amazing place. And the energies there were just off the chart. And then with this group, though, we visited this small little well, and Max, forgive me for not remembering the name of the well. Maybe you could help me name the well again.
Sang Creed.
Sun Creed.
Oh,
So we
and when
visited
you
this
say
little
well, do you
well.
mean like a well? Like what we think of as a well, or is that another term that I don't know what that means?
So I'll let Max answer that question since he's more familiar. But yes, it looks like a well to me. Yeah.
historically a very literal well.
Yeah.
Not still in use from a water point of view, still visited from a sacred point of view.
So Holuel is along the coast. It's kind of different. There's like spring water coming out of the rock there that has created some very unusual formations inside a cave. So this was very different. It was a, stone well that you kind of walk down steps into. But there was this group of people we went there with who were local, who know the place. And it was the energy was just different, I think, because we were in with a group of local folks that understood this place, way better than we did. And just sitting around singing to the well together, right, was just I don't know, I don't know how to describe it. It was just a very different kind of experience, right, than going to some of these other places by ourselves, even places where we actually did sing to the waters ourselves. But it was something about being in a group, especially with people that, have been embedded in that place. It was just a very different kind of experience. And so um, it, it felt it felt less extractive to visit the place that way than, the way that we were visiting other places. Amazing experiences, great, wonderful. I don't know. Am I making sense here? So it just felt like a different level of inquiry and a different positionality. The
So,
trip.
how do you reconcile the judgment of what that experience is? Because from your view of what that experience felt like, based upon what you bring to that felt different. Let's stay with
Right.
different. So, that sensation of difference is based upon your own beliefs and whatnot. So, as we step into a place and we're bringing our beliefs, and that affects how those other entities that inhabit or occupy that space interact with that space, because there's a disruption in energy fields, interactions, and so forth.
Right.
So how do we look at that in a way that we respect and support what the place is calling for?
Yeah, there's no doubt my beliefs had an influence on my experience. At the same time, hmm, I just wonder if the quality of the experience has its own energy and animacy and aliveness that's not, I mean, obviously my beliefs can influence that in terms of how I would describe it, but I think the nature of it um, can shift based on the collective energies that are there. Somewhat, somewhat independent of my own set of beliefs, right? It's all those unique perspectives that get brought to bear in our work, right? Everything, every person, every framework, right? They're all individually unique perspectives that have the potential to add to the value of the experience, I think, collectively.
If I can follow up on that, Marcus, what is interesting to me in terms of my inquiry around how do I select where I want to go?
Right.
I was thinking like, because you are at a particular, developmental opportunity around attuning to energies, and that connected you to people and places around this. How, what what have you sensed alive in you, and what has been your process for discerning what next developmental edge you need to tend?
Hmm. Uh, I guess by offering an example, I volunteered for a fishbowl, huh? So yeah, it still felt, you know, and this is a conundrum I face with travel, right? Is it still feels like often you're just popping in and out of places, right? You're just coming in for and if you really want to establish a good quality relationship with people and place, and so it takes time and right a consistent level of engagement and re-engagement and yeah, how do you do that when you're traveling in a way where you're just kind of popping in and out of places? So I think the developmental edge is, um, I think we try and concentrate when we travel on not traveling too widely. In other words, I don't want to see all of England in 2 weeks, kind of thing. That, oh my God, that sounds like a nightmare. Following somebody on a bus with, you know, carrying a flag, walking through little. Um, so we try and concentrate in particular areas, but you know, we're still like visiting a place, popping in one day, popping out, right? Um, so there's embedding yourself, I think, in a particular place for a longer period of time is feels like a requirement to really get into, you know, closer relationship.
I hear that and resonate with that. And I actually was asking something different. So let's see if you're willing to go there. And then I think Debbie may be unmuted, but my question was actually, what has been alive in you that and how have you discerned that learning how to work with the subtle energies is a developmental edge you want to tend?
Oh, that.
That's what I'm actually interested in
Oh,
hearing.
you're talking about the course I took.
Well, and how have you discerned that that's, you know, a capability you need to develop? That's actually what I'm most interested in, because it's like a person could choose from a bajillion things, but how are we
Yeah, not
discerning what we're
sure.
actually what capabilities we're actually called to develop in service to life?
So I think I have a pretty easy answer to that one. So the uh, if you look at storing place, the regenesis process of storing place, um, we're gathering all this information about a place, and then we're triangulating, right, through pattern recognition, core process, core purpose, and core value, trying to identify, okay, that tells us what the essence of the place is, that tells us what the vocation of the place is. And so it's great and extremely useful information to know all this. But the analogy that I've been coming up with lately is if I want to get to know this tree outside my window, so I can go study all the biology and all the mycelial interactions and all the, you know, the way the water moves in the cambium and well, the way the photosynthesis, right? I can do all this scientific study of that tree. I can learn the microclimate. I can learn about the local soil conditions and the geology and all that stuff. Um, and it's all useful information and all helpful for me to understand that particular tree. But I could also just sit with that tree and ask it, ask the tree, right? Talk to the tree, communicate with the tree directly. And so the subtle energies of the land course was about um, augmenting the storing place process with other ways of directly communicating with the land.
I mean, real quick, it sounds like you're trying to create like a more being to being connection rather than
Exactly.
all
Yeah,
focusing on the functional elements.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, totally. If the premise is uh, that the land is alive and that every Square meter of land is completely different and unique from every other square meter of land. Then yeah, in my mind, that's a living being, and that living being has a spirit that can be communicated with. And there are many ways to do that.
So
What was
when you were talking about the sorting of place, and based on my most recent trip from a few weeks back, so when we try to understand how do the different species interact with each other and all that, and what are the boundary conditions, what are the patterns that have existed and are becoming. I think that's all those elements of those frameworks are useful for that connection. So you see that there is something that is becoming alive, something that was no longer, and so forth. So I think that's part of that. But I was not aware of that other course. It's another. I see that as another instrument that allows us to connect with the place.
Yeah. I mean, I just started taking this class online. Again, it's from an indigenous perspective.
Which of the indigenous groups' perspectives?
There are many involved in this particular one. Yeah, and that's going to vary depending on who you listen to. So
Did you say I started taking this class? Did you share that and I missed it or something?
I can drop it in the chat.
Oh, that'd be
I'll
great.
have to dig it out.
Debbie,
Yeah, what's coming up for me is relationship and kinship, right?
Exactly.
And the question Karen was asking around what you were pursuing a developmental edge, and so the question for me came up with how that intersected with a decision around travel. And so was that purely a functional decision around this place offered this opportunity to pursue this developmental edge?
Oh, for me? Well, the uniqueness of traveling to England to take a course like this was certainly appealing and enticing. So the primary instructor for this course actually lives in Vermont. And I think we probably could have taken this course in Vermont. So yeah, there was a unique element of adding the travel to a place that I'd never been before. I've been in Vermont probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 dozen times, something like that. And I love Vermont. It's one of my favorite places in the world. But yeah, just it was enticing, I think, the opportunity to include some travel along with attending the course. And we're the only Americans, so it was.
So that's interesting in terms of the experience you had at the well. Potentially, is it?
Right.
I guess is it interesting in terms of the experience you had at the well and that the collective energies that were there?
Yeah, I think that's what I think good travel professionals are trying to do, is give people authentic local experiences, right? Although, yeah, there just wasn't a travel professional involved in my situation.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Because they're not trying to like sell this, right?
Yeah.
Authentic local experience to
Yeah.
you. I'm just trying to create my own, right?
This is the rub, right?
Yeah.
It is like when I started my company, it was like, how do I create these authentic experiences for visitors? And is that Is that even something? And the levels of energy keep coming up for me too as I'm looking at those, as we're holding the question of purposeful travel. What can we design for those kind of experiences?
Debbie, as you're talking about that, I would like to include in that experience the transportation to and from as part of the experience, because I enjoy multimodal modes of transportation. And most recently, air travel. The experience is so volatile. So depending on the airline, depending on the airports that you go through, there's so many variables affecting that part of the experience and how that adds or removes value from the overall trip. And how can we, as a group, or as instruments, engage with other travelers throughout? So if you're in an airplane or you're in a train, do you talk to people, engage, disengage, and all those other things? So it's what I'm saying is expanding that travel to include everything from the time that you leave your house until you come back to your house.
Really
It's interesting.
interesting.
Go for it.
I just was reading a post on LinkedIn this morning, this travel writer writing about having an amazing experience in a place completely tainted by the experience returning on the airline with Ryanair. So really, yeah, that's really alive right now for me too. Thanks, Max. Go ahead.
Yeah. Interesting, I think, because Karen, I almost slightly misunderstood your initial question. I'm holding these three different frames that we could have for travel, all of which might be alive to varying degrees. And so one of the first things that came up was the notice of purposeful travel, which to me was landing as actually travel in service to the place I'm going to, and holding the power of that and the trap of voluntourism that already exists, and that slightly colonial trap we can very easily fall into. So what would genuinely showing up in service to a place actually look like? And then I was sort of holding similar to what Marcus was talking about of showing up in inquiry, the notions of essence to essence travel. Bryce talking about being to being, of actually, if we are there for a very short period of time, maybe what matters most is that deep connection, the active listening and feeling for the essence of a place through to my own essence, and sort of the relationship that Debbie's talking about there. And then it sounded like actually you were redefining the current aim you're holding as actually traveling to somewhere in service of your own development in a little bit more of a self-focused way, but with the ultimate purpose of being in service to life. And so it's just interesting for me to kind of hold those three options or energies, and be curious for how that sort of confluence of the three is landing within you.
Yeah, I mean, my experience of traveling is that sometimes being in a novel place, and because everything's new and we're seeing with new eyes, does enable me to return home, so to speak, wherever home is, with, oh, actually, like, I'm blind to what's here normally, but because I had that experience there. So like, I will say, like, when I lived for an extended period in Costa Rica, and then, was living more and more kind of outside, and then ended up in a cabina that, like, literally one side was completely open to the jungle, and facing my fears around that, the rainforest, I should say, I want to say rainforest. But waking up one morning and looking out and being like, this is what life looks like when she's ongoingly, continually nourished, which is very different than the way life looks when she needs to go to sleep in the winter. And I've lived in northern climates most of my life, and it just felt like a relationally very different way of honoring the seasonality. So I feel like all of it's nested, like my development, like I feel like, to me, what's been sad, and I have been, like when I lived in Germany and like had to get some sun in April, like my friend and I, this is right after the wall fell, I was living in Germany. My friend and I found the cheapest bus ticket we could get to go to Spain to get some sun, which didn't work out, by the way, but it was also everybody who now had money from East Germany was on that bus. And for some reason, it was the most mindless travel experience I've ever had. It wasn't like these folks who had been in East Germany and unable to travel were like, oh my gosh, this world's amazing. It was like, where are the German Wurst? I mean, like, it was so weird. And how bad that felt. It felt so extractive, and we really tried to get away from it. And that, and then I've been on travels where it's like, it changed my life. It changed my life. And I think, yeah, I feel like my development and the development of the place now, I want those to be served, and not in that volunteerism way. So yeah, I love the inquiry that we're at. And I think, there is like this, like I'm trying to balance both, like what are my aims, what are my developmental edges, how can I serve with, I need enough to put together an itinerary, but I also know the magic is in the interstitial, and that the opportunities are going to arise as I become more intimate with people and places. So I feel like I have this huge privilege that the way my life is constellated, I can just wait for the interstitial to show me what's next. So I just need enough clarity to be able to start the itinerary and be purposeful in how I'm serving and developing myself. But I know that there's a lot of guidance. So
Would you remind me of the beautiful word interstitial? I've heard it before, but I just forgot it. What does it mean?
oh, do I know what it means?
Mm,
I think of it as like between structures. I don't know if that's right, but that's how I think of it.
okay,
Between the actual structures that we can
Yeah.
see.
sounds like it, because inter means it's like interpersonal between two, and stitials could be structure.
Yeah, let's look. It's always fun to do the etymology.
Thank you.
It's kind of like the loose connective tissue in between.
Ah,
Fascia.
mhm.
Could be. Yeah.
Mm.
So one of the things that was coming up for me, Karen, and what you were talking about is and being conscious about this is when you're trying to communicate with another being, right? It's you often you visit someone, right? You bring a gift. It's right, you make an offering, right? And offerings don't have to be physical things. One of the things we spend a lot of time in the class working on is ways of offering just song, right? I mentioned the group of us singing at the well, but you can, right, make a connection by making an offering of a song or a poem or your words. This is something that that is somewhat, at least, uniquely human. And I think we tend to downplay the value to other beings of those kinds of offerings that we can make. So yeah, just the notion of offering, and if you have a voice, you can always offer a song. And it doesn't even have
If
to be words, right? It could just be what are the sounds that, right, are coming up for you in that moment. And
if I asked you, Karen, where do you feel called to pilgrimage to? Where comes up?
I love that question. And I actually wrote down that I have been on intentional pilgrimages and worked with that, like really intensive energy of being in really venerated spaces. I was in a place called Puerto Morelos last November, and I had to return home because of a family tragedy. And I feel called back there, and I keep telling myself, like, there's a lot of reasons why. It's the second largest coral reef in the world, and of course, she's dying, just like so many places, reefs. And let's see if I can share screen later, but also like I was walking on the beach and was like, what is this thing? This is while Carol was dying, actually, Carol Sanford, and we were accompanying her. And I was like, what is this thing? And I was like, I couldn't, like, it looked like a water balloon, but it clearly wasn't a water balloon. Is it plastic? Like, what? It looked like a snow globe water balloon. It was kind of green. And I'll see if I can find the video of it and share it with you folks. But what I found out when I went home was it's the largest single-celled organism in the whole world.
Mhm.
And this huge, like, I felt so much awe. I already was so open to awe because of this dying, process that Carol was in and her allowing us to accompany her. And then also this tragedy included death in my family. And I had a transcendent moment when I knew I had to leave, and I went in the water, where I closed my eyes and was floating, and then I opened my eyes, and I was in a place you would, like between two boats. And I opened my eyes, and I had been kind of praying to pelicans because this person who died was an ornithologist. And the pelicans were diving into the ocean, over this time while she was dying. And I'm thinking about Carol, and Carol was like the wild goose woman going west, like and I would think of the pelicans like from my faith tradition, like that when we die, we plunge into the sea of light. And so I was thinking of the pelicans plunging into the sea of light. And I just kind of like came to after, floating and like kind of saying a prayer of like, okay, may this departure be of service. And there were all these fish, like a whole school of fish surrounding me. I'm just like up to my waist in the depth, like I'd never seen this. And a pelican right next to me. I don't even know how that pelican got there. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like, I don't even know what this means, but like, you're talking. And someone said to me that day, they're like, oh, Puerto Morelos has a way of calling you back if you're supposed to go. Now it's mainly just kind of a place that feels comfortable. It's easy. I know the people, the places, it's easy for me to, it's not like there's some like amazing regenerative something going to. And I think in my mind, I have this thing of like, I need to find the most regenerative things and put them in alignment. So maybe this is my remembering of like, maybe I've already got the answer of like, just go see what's there because the place is spoken. And I feel moved to tears thinking about it. So thank you. Well, that's easy. I can make my itinerary.
Was that Belize
No, this was Puerto Morelos in Mexico. It's in
in
the
Mexico?
Yucatan.
Okay. It's probably close then to Belize with the large coral reef.
Yeah. I mean, it's still further north than you would expect. But yeah, Belize is close. Yeah. Sounds like maybe you know Belize.
You know, my growth edge is working on my being because I'm very functional. And it was reinforced in corporate. There's like this little voice that's like, get shit done. You know, what's all this singing to wells have to do? I don't listen to that. I notice it gratefully. With the conversation, even just what Karen offered and before that with Marcus, you created a field. There's something about the field, because that wasn't, the singing wasn't like getting shit done and making this now permaculture and regenerating it somehow. It just created a field. I shouldn't say just, it created a field. And for the get shit done, Janet, I find myself discounting that, and it has something to do with over functioning and under being. So thank you for that reminder.
That's very alive with the lessons I was taking from our UK intensive. I only did my TRP last year and then was on the host team for this year. So really interesting, right? Reflecting on basically just 1 year of regenerative practice. And what came through was a massive shift out of a hyper-functional focus and a very left-brained frameworks and doing and changing things. And yeah, I felt like there was just a huge shift. As just the crux of this work is energetic within me, within others, just really deepening into essence and being. And it bled into a standing meditation I did 2 days ago as well, where it actually just landed in my body. It was like, oh, okay, this is what it's all about. And then even noticing for myself that, you know, when we're holding those levels of selves, like that is my doing self who just wants to get shit done. But actually, he's really helpful too. So holding that integrative sense of, rather than just bashing my doing self and be like, no, he's useless. No, he is really good at getting shit done when shit needs to get done. And how can I hold all of those other energies at the same time in some level of coherence? So it's just really lovely hearing you share that, because it's so alive for me as of last week and this week.
Janet, I think we have talked about this in the past, but I think that there's that corporate perception, or corporate, yeah, it's a corporate perception and woo-ness. So all those practices that can be described as woo-woo are automatically discounted because they don't seem to add value, and they don't seem to add value because value, the adding process is 100% transactional. So yeah, something to keep an eye out for.
And I'm
What
trying
is
to,
value?
yeah, I'm trying to connect, if there is a way, you know, this conversation around the field and the awareness and the place. And then there was 2 items I heard around Ryanair, which probably we've all flown on. And it's like EasyJet, it's low cost. And so, you know, there's a part of me that you get what you paid for. And that is also similar to the clothing retail, fast fashion. Like we want everything cheap and from China or something, because we don't want to spend a lot of money. But are we contributing to what we're trying to elevate?
Yeah, to use a Gen Z term, if you do a red pill, so what does that imply? You have to be consistent, and that's part of the travel. So if we, for example, uh, highlighting Greta Thunberg, that she said, "I'm not going to travel on planes because of the carbon footprint." I mean, that's a decision that you make as a traveler. How do you move? And so if you choose Ryanair, why do you choose Ryanair? And is that better than any other airline? And what thoughts are behind that decision making process? So again, using the tetrad. So if you're saying point A to point B, what are the instruments that I have for traveling? Was giving direction to that decision and so forth. And so for some, they say, well, all right, for me, it's time. So I have a limited amount of time. I want to use the limited amount of time in a way that it adds the most value to the things I engage with. So I'm saying that because if you choose to fly, sometimes people fly because of time. Some people use, well, if I get on the train, then I can be doing other things and I don't have to wait at the airport and other things. So again, using the tetrad as a process to engage the why and how we travel, that makes that offers a framework to do that. On the other part of value is, again, it's centered around if you look at the five capitals and how people engage with the different capitals to make value decisions. That's another way to look at it. But yeah, I'm just pointing out that we should be aware, self-observing when we're going through those decisions.
I so resonate with that, Miguel, because I spent 15 years of my life teaching and trying to reduce my carbon and water and all of my footprints. And now I know that getting on the plane once and I've blown my whole globally allocated footprint immediately out of the water. So it's for me, it's like, okay, so how do I, if I'm consuming these resources, quote unquote, right? How do I best serve them? And so I have two questions. One, would you like to see the awe-inspiring single cell organism? And I'll share my screen. And then the other is, thinking about, like, as I travel, like, what would you love to experience through me that I could contribute to you? Because I'll be thinking of
Right.
my developmental communities and, like, thinking and sharing about my edges. But, like, that's just a question I have. We don't have to answer that here, but oh, the other thing I want to say is, like, and the choices, this ties in, like, I'm hosting a, like, Get Off Spotify hackathon this weekend because I haven't been able to do it and I want to do it. But, like, the choices don't exist because of the way that innovation works. What I actually want is a super lightweight, and I don't know if this is accurate though, from design standpoint, but like a super lightweight solar and wind powered boat that fits my, that I travel on and I learn about navigating with Earth's natural systems and have a whole experience. That's actually what I want, but it doesn't exist. And this gets at what, like, I really want to talk about innovation and question our paradigms and stuff. So
Yeah, so there's a group of people that I've come across a few times that they row. So they have like a little two-person rowboat with solar panels and comms and all that, and they row from Europe to the Caribbean. So they alternate sleeping and rowing and whatnot. They don't have wind, but it's solar. I mean, because it's rowing, so it doesn't have the wind part. But yeah, there is a shift to electric assisted boats, so you can have wind and or some solar panels, and that can do a little propulsion and whatnot. So that's available and doable. And there's some small power boats that are electric. So it depends. The question for you is how far do you want to go, and that can frame that decision process.
There are companies, I don't know, they're looking into or offering like Zeppelin kind of air travel. Very
Maybe
low energy.
maybe the South Pacific and the Celestial Navigators are calling you too, Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing, like I'm having been like lived with an indigenous family in Costa Rica. I think that's when we first connected, Debbie. You know, just the horrific loss of traditional ecological knowledge and life ways is huge. And so I know that that's something that calls me.
Have you read The Wayfinders? Wade Davis?
I think I have ages ago, but it's been around?
Yeah, it's been around for a while. Yeah.
Okay, I might need to read that
It's
again.
a lot of it's about navigating the currents in the Pacific.
Yeah.
Being vitalized all of that too. That
That's a
knowledge.
great book.
Yeah.
So there was one thing that was coming up that I was observing here that maybe loops us back a little bit to the scope of consciousness. So we didn't really spend much time talking about the levels of energy in that aspect of it, right? But when you look at the higher levels of energy, right, it's unitive and transcendent energies, right? And so it felt like there was an aspect of seeking those higher levels of energy as you're traveling is an element of this, I think.
Yeah, it totally ties to the pilgrimage part.
Yeah.
Max.
Yeah, and that, it's in a purposeful loop. It's in beliefs, philosophies, and principles.
And I was just going to comment on what happened in the session in terms of energies too. Was the session felt very different today. And I think there's just some really different energies coming in with where you've been, Marcus, potentially, and Max and Bryce even. So that just felt like I could just really feel that. I just wanted to acknowledge that and share gratitude for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful.
will you just crystallize out how it felt different for you? I would love to hear that, just more like to understand that more deeply, if you don't mind.
Well, I think, Marcus, I think you named this, Janet. Marcus almost cultivated a field through sharing what he did. And there was just this spaciousness that just felt, there was an interplay of energies too that felt new and different. Like there's a collective energy. There felt like a collective energy here that I haven't felt so clearly before.
It must be Max.
Shall I share my screen and we can go out
Let's
with
see that. Yeah.
The single cell amoeba that we share a third of our DNA with.
Oh my God, it's like translucent.
Wow.
Yeah, it's by the way, it's an algae.
Oh, you can see through it. Oh my God.
Wow.
Isn't she amazing?
I have a
just
past life as a marine biologist. What is this called, please?
Yeah.
Must know more.
I've looked it up so many times you'd think I'd remember. If you look up largest single-celled organism and then Yucatan, you'll find it. There's a couple different that come up, but yeah, I put it on a like local ID thing and people are like, oh yeah, we find those.
Sea grape, Valonia ventricosa, or bubble algae. Does that sound about right?
How did you get that so quickly?
Google.
Function.
Wow. So what's the outer membrane feel like?
Feels like a kind of leathery water balloon.
Hmm.
Like an
Yeah,
egg
it's not
yolk,
hard.
the egg's membrane?
Yeah, but not so not so fragile. Like I could kind of squeeze it and it would kind of, you wouldn't want to squeeze it hard, but it definitely like could withhold, being manipulated
Wow.
and
So
just so beautiful. And I love how all the waves and
Mm.
yeah, I mean, it was so poignant to be there and I had been there 2 or 3 years before and I literally, it was a pilgrimage because the reef is just like shocking. Like I literally came out of the first snorkel and was like, mi vida está completa. Like if I die today, my life is complete. Like that was transcendent. And then coming back and I'm friends with one of the guides who spent his whole life since he was a kid diving and guiding, because it's a lot of tourism now. And he said he and his colleagues said I spent the last 3 months of last year sobbing
Hmm.
every day because I'm watching this being that I love so much die. And that tied in with Carol dying and this person in our family dying. Like it felt like the grief on the cosmic level in all ways. So that this single-celled ancient being showing up in my life felt very poignant. Been here billions of years.
Hmm.
So, thank you, everyone. That was so
Yeah,
rich.
thanks everyone.
I'm
Any
like,
Thank
other
you.
any other reflections on
I
the
know what I'm
session
doing.
today? Anyone would like to offer?
great, Karen.
I'll just offer one more quick one. I think it ties back to I think is it the systems evolution course, but it's kind of like, so I was kind of seeing like the activating forces, like maybe like people want your desire to travel, and then it's kind of like, what are the imperatives of the place and what is the place calling for? You can see that some places in Europe are like so done with people traveling, or like the over tourism, and kind of like what is the local perspective on travel. And I feel like too, it's like a lot of times what the tourism brings just naturally is like against what the local traditions kind of want, maybe like corporatizing and monetizing sacred sites or things like that. So it's like, how can you go with the local movement, travel in a way that like kind of syncs with the local movement or lifts up what they want, if it's possible.
Mhm.
So.
Well said. So that
There's a
we don't
really
become travelers of the like H&M clothing, the same kind of breed.
Ugh.
Max, I'm sorry I interrupted.
Not at all. There's a really, thank you all. It's been really lovely to be here. There's a really lovely spaciousness to this group, and I think I'm quite used to my regenerative groups being course related, and it's like we're here to get shit done. And even as I can't remember who now, sorry, was sharing the power of Marcus sharing his story for an energy building quality. We tend to bash sharing and telling and got to be developmental. And actually what's coming through here is a spaciousness and a flexibility of no, all of this is welcome, and we can slow down and pull up videos from traveling and tell stories. And that just, it's a really lovely space to be in. So thank you all for having me.
Oh, thanks for showing up.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. See you next
All
week.
right.
Thanks everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Be well.
Oh, Marcus, see
Thanks.
if I captured the essence of this in the spreadsheet, and if not, change it.
You brought it. I'm fine with whatever you got in there.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right.
Marcus, we're
Yes.
meeting in an hour.
Correct.
Is there any possibility of postponing? Because I'm just not feeling great today.
Yeah, I've been feeling great all week. I'm getting better. I brought a cold back from England, so
So would that feel like
sure. I
meeting?
mean, we can. I think we got a couple weeks. One of the things I wanted to do was get I'm gonna